welcome to Armchair Explorer on location. Travel and adventure stories recorded in the field in the most immersive way possible, designed to give you a glimpse of what it feels like to be there for real. Are you ready? Let's go. Today, you're coming with me to the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, one of my favorite places in the world. I absolutely loved making this episode. I love this part of the world. I live in this part of the world. And today we are going to go climb to the top of Estes Cone. It's one of the least well-known mountains in Rocky Mountain National Park, but it is one of the absolute most spectacular views from the top that you will ever see. So this episode is about going on that hike, coming with me, having some fun, but it's also about the power of the mountains themselves and what they can give us. As John Muir said, the mountains are calling and I must go. So let's hit the dirt, get those boots on, and have some fun. Our on-location documentaries are big projects and not cheap to make. We partner with destinations to help fund these projects, but the storytelling is all ours. And you can rest assured that nothing will appear on this feed that I don't personally approve, love, and think you will too. Thank you to Visit Estes Park for making this one happen. And if you like what you hear, check out visitestespark.com to find out more. Welcome to Exploring Estes Park, a podcast about Colorado's original playground and the base camp to the Rocky Mountains, its history, its people, and its secrets. I'm Aaron Miller, I'm a travel writer, and 8 years ago I left my home in London, England to come here to these soaring peaks of Colorado's Front Range. I've spent my life writing about the world's most beautiful landscapes, and this might just be the most beautiful of all. So come with me on an adventure through one of my favorite places in the world. We're going to travel from the top of its mountains to its ice blue alpine lakes. We're going to hear from its original inhabitants, the Ute and Arapaho Native American tribes, and the stories of the people who founded this town and who are still shaping it to this day. We are exploring Estes Park. This episode, we are going to get our boots on and do some hiking. There are 124 named peaks in Rocky Mountain National Park, and 118 of them are over 10,000 feet. When you stand on the summit of one of them and look out, a sea of peaks surrounds you on all sides. There are few things more exhilarating in life, and for many of us, it's why we come. But it hasn't always been that way. For thousands of years, mountains were the abode of gods and monsters, places to be feared and avoided at all costs. More recently, they became challenges, a piece of indomitable nature that the bravest or craziest of us would dare to tame. Now, perhaps they are transforming again, changing in our imagination from something to subdue to somewhere to seek solace, to escape from the confines of our modern world. Today we're going to climb a mountain, one that very few visitors and even locals ever do. It's called Estes Cone. It's 11,006 feet tall. But this story is about more than just getting our boots in the dirt. It's about learning to see these rocky summits with fresh eyes, whether you're climbing to the top or just enjoying the view from afar. John Muir famously said, "The mountains are calling and I must go." We're going to heed those words, reach for that summit, and listen for the call of the mountains.
I think the first time I really noticed the natural world was actually in Rocky Mountain National Park.
This is Katie McShane. She's a philosophy professor at Colorado State University, specializing in environmental philosophy, which means she thinks a lot about the natural world.
I was like 13 or 14. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, so it was a very paved over sort of environment. I would go recreate at the mall. And I had never been in mountains, and I had never seen trails that just went on for so long. And like you could climb all the way up to the top of the mountain. It was like an absolute revelation to me. And I think that was the first time I started thinking about the natural world as sort of impressive. But I'd never noticed it before. And I grew up in the woods. There's trees and stuff all around. But mountains are different. There's something about getting up to the top of the mountain and getting to see that far that's fantastic.
For many of us, that's what draws us here, that unique perspective which you can only get in a few places in the world. We're going to hear more from Katie later. But first, let's meet someone for whom the mountains didn't just change her life, they became her life's work. So we've just arrived at Lake Estes. It is a beautiful morning, and we're here to meet Dawn Wilson, who's one of Estes Park's best-known local landscape and wildlife photographers. She takes absolutely incredible images. She leads tours through the park where you can learn to capture that perfect image too. But we're here to meet her because she has some really interesting things to say about the mountains.
Morning.
Dawn?
You guys must be the right guys. The only ones standing around.
We're the guys with the microphone.
Audio
How's it
equipment.
going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah. Lake Estes is a really peaceful spot. It's early morning, fishermen are on the banks, there's kayakers, people are walking the Lake Estes Trail, and there's birdsong everywhere.
So this is the Matthews Reese Bird Sanctuary here on Lake Estes, and it's a wonderful spot in the spring where you get a lot of migrating birds that would come through, and then this time of year it's a big elk calf birthing area, so it's always kind of a spot you got to kind of watch your back a little bit, keep an eye out for the pregnant cows, but it's a fun spot to come watch the little baby calves when they're born.
Spring is a great time of year for wildlife in Estes Park. As the snow melts, life returns in earnest. As Dawn talks, hummingbirds and warblers buzz around us. Later on, we'll see those baby elk calves too, and have a close encounter I will never forget. But like so many people here, Dawn wasn't born in Estes Park. She came here for the mountains, not just for their beauty or their wildlife, but because she found something healing in them too.
I moved out to Colorado with my partner, Eric, and he passed away unexpectedly in 2012. And when that happened, I kind of said, you know what, I need to kind of walk away from the corporate jobs, the sitting at a desk all day. I found I was catching myself looking out the windows more, and I'm like, I need some time outdoors.
She had a tough year. Her father passed within a few months of Eric. It would have broken most of us. But instead, she used those tragedies as inspiration to stop staring out of that corporate window and follow her dream instead. And for Dawn, that dream was to live in Estes Park and spend her days hiking, writing, and taking breathtakingly beautiful photographs.
In 2015, I sold my house so that I could travel full-time in an RV, and I wound up settling back here. Even though I was traveling all over the country, it was something about Colorado and Estes that just, like, I have to go back. It's where I really felt the happiest and had everything I really wanted around me. So in 2016, I found a job back up here and came back here, and then in 2018 left that, and I'm doing my writing and photography full-time now. It's a wonderful thing to wake up every morning and you look out the window and you see the Continental Divide and you see, the amazing wildlife we have up here, and you can take a stroll around this lake, and so I don't regret that at all.
Dawn came back here because she found comfort in these mountains. It's where she was happiest. And her dream did come true. She's now a professional photographer and leads photography tours in the park throughout the year. But part of what she found healing in the mountains, and part of what she says makes a great photographer, is learning to slow down.
One of the things that I love to look for are some of the small details. Try to walk away from the big, huge landscape, but see intimate details within that landscape. And that may be just catching a pine cone on a tree, or it may be, a bird on a branch. We actually have a warbler that just showed up behind us. So it's just those little things that, sometimes people don't always stop to see. I found that once I had the time to kind of stop and look, all of a sudden I was like, look at all these things I was missing. I was just driving right by them. So I really try to encourage people to do that. Don't rush through everything. Stop and take it in and really start observing for what's going on.
As Dawn talks, her eyes dart around, noticing tiny movements in the branches behind me, calling out different birds she sees. And it's kind of infectious because gradually, just being with her, I start to slow down and notice those small details too. And according to Dawn, if you want to get the most out of your time in the mountains, that's exactly what you should be doing.
Stop and take it in. It's not about getting to the top all the time. That's part of it. That's certainly why you're out there, is you'd like to get to achieve that goal, but enjoy the journey along the way.
Mountains can so often be just about reaching the top, bagging that peak, and that is fun. But if that's all we're focused on, we miss the main point. I leave Lake Estes and drive 7 miles south to Lily Lake, passing some of those baby elk calves grazing by the side of the road. Now, Lily Lake is a popular spot, and rightly so, it's amazing. But we're not staying here, because to slow down, to really notice things, you need to not just change your attitude, you also need to find your own quiet corner of the park. And Estes Cone is one of those corners.
It's a cool peak, and it definitely gets done. In fact, if you meet people that have climbed Estes Cone, it's not rare, but it's like, oh, you've done some hiking in the park. Because it's not like right up on the top of people's lists.
This is Bob Chase. He's a guide for the Colorado Mountain School, and he's been leading trips in the park for 30 years.
So when we leave the trailhead here, we're gonna hike around Lily Lake on the south side of the lake. Then we're gonna do this long traverse around below the peak and end up climbing the peak from the south side of the peak. It's about a 3-mile hike one way. It's pretty close to 2,000 vertical feet.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel that.
So it's a challenging hike. Right up the top, there'll be just a little scrambling. Don't need ropes for it, but you're gonna have to use your hands a little bit, and then we're gonna get like the money summit on top, because you get this unique view of the whole Estes Valley, the Continental Divide, the national park, 360 degrees around you. So it's spectacular.
I can't wait. Let's hit the trail. Bob is 58 years old, going on 25. He has limitless energy, limitless enthusiasm, and although I'm a few years younger than him and consider myself pretty fit, he hikes the hell out of me. We skirt the east side of Lily Lake, cross a short meadow, and drop into a thick pine forest. Then the trail gets steep, fast. My breath quickens, I can feel my heartbeat pumping in my chest. But I try and take Dawn's advice. I slow down and just listen to the sounds of the forest.
In general, the faster you're moving, the more noise you're making, the less wildlife you're gonna see. As far as bird watching goes, you're probably gonna hear 75% of the birds and only see 25% of them. Like that white-breasted nuthatch is, this bird that's, 4 or 5 inches long. And it's up there somewhere, probably moving along like the main stem of one of these evergreen trees, picking little insects and spiders and things from underneath the bark. And if it's not calling, you're almost not gonna see it unless you just happen to see it fly maybe from one tree to another. As far as favorite bird goes, I like woodpeckers a lot.
Oh yeah?
And I like raptors a lot. Probably 2 of my favorite families of birds. However, I will say that I guess if I had to choose a favorite bird, my mom died about 5 years ago, and she always loved this little bird called a brown creeper. It's in the nuthatch family. I used to see creepers, I might see 3 or 4 individuals in a year, and ever since mom died, I see 20, 30, 40 creepers in a year. It's just like my mom's like, hey, I'm good.
We walk for about half an hour just listening to the bird song until we pass a small waterfall rushing past us with the snowmelt of spring, views of Lily Lake hundreds of feet below us now poking through the canopy. We pause for a breath and then press on for another mile through steep forests of densely packed lodgepole pines until just before us, a view breaks out of the trees.
There's longs right there, and then down to the left, you go down into that big snow-covered saddle, and you come up, and the other peak over there, it kind of has like 2 bumps on it. That's Mount Meeker.
Long's Peak just looks like a proper mountain, a colossal pyramid of stone rising above all others. It's the highest peak in the park at 14,259 feet, and Mount Meeker, its sister peak right next to it, isn't far behind at 13,911. Bob points out some of Long's features with a climber's eye: a narrow couloir called the Notch, a sheer 2,000-foot rock wall called the Diamond, which he's actually climbed up, something that apparently looks like a beaver, and then he shows us the North Face, which is the cables route that they used to climb Long's back at the turn of the 20th century.
They used to have a big cable in there, and that used to be the way people climbed Long's Peak. They would ride a horse all the way up to the boulder field. And there used to be the Boulder Field Inn up there, and then they had a little stone and mortar stable for the horses. And you go up, you spend the night, and then you went up the cables route. And it's crazy to see people up there, these black and white pictures of like women in these long dresses and like those crazy long lace-up boots with heels, and men in like suits and like leather-soled dress shoes, because that's just the way they rolled back then. And like just hand over hand, like Batmaning up the cable. And then they would come down the keyhole, get on their horse, and ride back to town.
They were so much harder back then, weren't they?
Anytime I start to think I'm kind of hard, I think back that generation of climbing, and it's like, yeah, I'm soft. Those folks were way harder than I'll ever be.
Bob's not being completely fair to himself. If he's soft, I'm basically jello, because even at this distance, it's obvious that Long's is a serious climb, and it is a climb, not a hike. People get stuck and die up there every year, especially at one notorious section called the Keyhole, which requires scrambling along a rocky ledge narrower than a sidewalk with no barriers and thousands of feet of empty air beneath you. It's terrifying. But it should be, because mountains shouldn't just command our appreciation, they should also demand our respect.
Some of the big things you have to watch, especially here in Rocky Mountain National Park in the summer, that people tend to underestimate. One is the altitude. If you come from someplace pretty low, your body's not acclimatized yet. So you want to give yourself a chance to spend a couple of days in Estes Park, a couple of nights in Estes Park. Stay really well hydrated. That's key for helping your body acclimatize. And you'll have a lot more fun than when you get up. So you don't have a bad headache and you're not possibly really nauseous or throwing up. And possibly putting yourself in a position where maybe you have to be rescued. So you want to be prepared as far as acclimatization goes. You want to be prepared as far as what you take in your pack. You want to be prepared for rain and cold weather, because every 1,000 feet you go up, the temperature drops 3 degrees, which is significant. If it's 70 degrees in Estes, it's like 50 degrees up there, so it's a lot colder. The wind usually picks up, and so hypothermia is another real danger out here. Your core temperature dropping down to the point where your brain starts to not function and you start making bad decisions, and then you can get injured.
And if you get yourself in trouble, depending on where you are, rescue isn't necessarily quick or easy. So you do need to be prepared, especially when it comes to lightning. Anyone that knows Colorado in summer knows that afternoon thunderstorms are a regular occurrence, and they can come out of nowhere.
Every once in a while somebody gets struck in the trees, but that's rare because you have all this forest around you and you're lower than all these trees. So very low probability you're going to get struck by lightning in the trees. As soon as you get above tree line, you're higher than all those rocks on the ground, and so now you're the highest thing up there. So that's the zone where you're at the most risk as far as lightning goes, is when you're above tree line. So if it looks like a lightning storm's coming in, your goal is to get down below the trees before that lightning comes in.
And if you can't get down, if you're stuck up there above tree line, what do you do?
Praying's good, but actually, there's kind of two basic lightning strikes that can happen to a human being. A direct strike, where the lightning initiates from the ground, joins what's in the air, and you're right there. You're at ground zero. If you're a part of a direct strike, you won't even know what hit you. You're dead instantly. That's actually pretty rare. If you've ever met somebody who's been struck by lightning, what has happened to them is they've caught a ground current. So that lightning, the ground static and the air static have come together and created that lightning, but at a distance from that person. But then that current has traveled through the wet rocks and the minerals in the rock, and then that current's dissipated by the time it's gotten to them. I've got friends that it's happened to. You got one buddy that got thrown 25 feet through the air. It's not that unusual. So it's good to spread out because of that, because then you just lower the probability that everybody's going to catch the same ground current. And then if you actually can like sit on something that's insulated like your pack, putting your ankles together, because like if you're standing with your feet apart, just standing there, the current can come through the ground into one foot, run through your body, and then out the other foot. And that's a much worse lightning strike than if you had your knees and ankles together. The theory is hopefully it goes like through one foot and out, right back out the other, and doesn't go through your heart, maybe stop your heart.
Great advice, though not super comforting, because above tree line is exactly where we're headed. But we have Bob with us. It's a perfectly clear blue sky day. The forecast is good, and he's confident we can make it.
At this point, we've come like probably 2 out of the 3 miles that we're going to do. So here in about a quarter mile, we're going to hit that junction I was talking about at Storm Pass, and we're going to actually get steeper. Trail will get a little less defined. You'll notice the trees will start getting a little more sparse, and then right up at the top, we'll just break out in the open, do a little actual scramble where we actually have to put our hands down on the rock to actually gain the true summit, where we get the great views up there.
Mini mountaineering.
Exactly.
Awesome, I can't wait. Well, if it's anything like this view, then we've got a treat in store.
It'll be better than this view.
Let's do it. Trail's just starting to get a lot steeper. We're really late into spring. It's almost summer, but there's a lot of snow on the ground still. It's almost like we're getting our first glimpse here of the Continental Divide. It kind of always blows my mind when I see that and think that a drop of rain on this side flows down to the east.
Yep, to the Atlantic on this side, and Pacific on the other side.
Yeah, and this is the divide. It's this place here.
Yeah, as the crow flies, we're only maybe 4 miles away. All that back there we're seeing is the divide.
The Continental Divide of the Americas, or the Great Divide, runs all the way from northern Alaska to the southern tip of South America. It's one of the most important geological features on the planet, and seeing it firsthand is always a very special experience. But seeing it also means that we're getting higher up, and that means that the summit is getting close. Well, we've really come from this very tall, densely packed lodgepole pine forest, which really feels almost like a man-made forest. It's so densely packed. But then you come up here and it's just a little more rugged and wild. The trees are much more sort of stout and lower to the ground, and they're a little gnarled by the cold and wind. It just feels like you're coming into a kind of a more extreme environment.
And you are. It doesn't just feel like it, but you actually are coming in a more extreme environment. We're starting to get up fairly close to tree line now, and this is an environment where the reason trees don't grow above a certain line is because it's just too cold in the winter. Seedlings can't get established because that new seedling tissue is so fragile that in the winter it freezes, especially in the wind that we get here. These are like the elite trees in the world of trees. Like, they're working hard. Some of these trees that aren't even all that big could be pretty old because the growing season up here is so short.
If you were a tree, you'd be one of these guys, and I'd be one of the lodgepole pines. The guy isn't even sweating. We follow a loose path of rock cairns, picking our way through the sparse forest and steep stone slopes until finally I see a patch of blue over the horizon, and I know the summit is near. But there's one challenge left. I feel like we're getting there though.
Yeah,
like I'm looking up, there's a big cliff in front of us.
Yeah, we can see the summit right here.
Oh, you can?
You can see the part that we're gonna scramble up, and you can see it gets a little steeper. We're gonna have to use our hands and feet just a little bit.
The cliff we're about to climb, the final challenge, is about 50 feet tall. There's boulders of all sides packed on top of each other, leading up to a narrow gully like a collapsed staircase where we can just about scramble up to the summit. We're almost there. All right, we're coming up through the final gully. It is a real climb right now. Hands are pulling up here.
All right.
Oh my God. Nearly there. Here we are. Woo! Yeah! Oh my God. Look at that.
It never gets old.
Yes! I always want to scream when I'm on a summit.
It is funny how it's like, human nature to want to scream when you're out here.
Bob starts naming peaks. Longs, Meeker, Storm Peak, Battle Mountain, McHenry's, Powell, Teratoma. Some are well known, some are utterly wild where no trails lead at all. The view is 360 degrees, it's intoxicating. And I want to scream because I've earned it. I've climbed this mountain with my own 2 feet. And that does feel different than seeing it on a postcard or through a car window. That scream really is primal because the buzz of standing on top of a mountain and the urge to get there is something deep inside of us. It's in our DNA.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's an evolutionary story here.
Katie McShane again.
You can see if anybody's coming, right? You can sort of see what's all around and know what's going on. There's a kind of power in being able to see everything around you, which in other landscapes you just can't. When you're in a forest, you have no idea what's going on, a couple hundred feet away. So it is a sort of powerful feeling, but those grand vistas are also beautiful. Now, maybe we think they're beautiful because of some evolutionary story about it being advantageous to be up high. But for whatever reason, we normally don't get to see that far. And mountains are one of the few places where you can see across such a vast stretch of countryside. So that's a very special kind of experience, I think.
There's something about being up on top.
Dawn Wilson.
There's something, we all strive to achieve success. There is part of, if you can reach that point, that's success. There's probably some physical response to it.
Height is a pervasive metaphor in our culture. We climb the career ladder. We look up when we're optimistic. Kings are placed on pedestals. Height is seen as desirable. There is something built into us on a deep level that recognizes the evolutionary advantages of height. And that may be part of why we climb mountains. That may be part of why it feels good. But that's not the whole story. As Bob and I stand on the summit, naming peaks, looking out into the remote recesses of the park from high above, we spin 360 degrees with the view, and then in the distance, faint but unmistakable, we see the soft blue haze of the Denver skyline.
You can kind of see the plains out there. We're looking down in the direction of like Loveland, Fort Collins, out that direction. And then as you come around over here, there's gonna be Boulder, Denver. Like, it's pretty amazing. If you got up here at night, Denver's gotten so big that there's a big orange glow that didn't used to be there when I first started working here.
You know what I love about being up here and like looking down at Denver is thinking of all those people sitting in offices and driving around in their cars, and they don't know what it's like to stand up here. The city is close. It feels a million miles away up here, but I can see it. Just the faintest outline, but it's there. And that's also why we're drawn to the mountains. Not just because we feel powerful looking down, not just because we feel in control, but also because of the opposite. Because we want to feel out of control, because we want to feel vulnerable, because the more sanitized and safe our modern lives become, the more we crave the risk and uncertainty of the wilderness, the more we hear the call of the mountains.
And we have this really complicated relationship to danger. We rightly fear it, and we don't want too much of it, but we do seem to want a little bit of it. If things are too safe, if we're too much in control of our surroundings, people get depressed. You want the world to contain more than just you and your own will. And so this idea that there are other things out there that are sort of big and powerful and maybe could hurt you, but hopefully won't hurt you, is sort of an attractive idea to people. You don't really know what you can do until you really put yourself in a kind of risky situation, until you really push yourself and challenge yourself. That's exhilarating.
I love to help people push their limits and be able to get to know somebody well enough that I probably can see where their limits are, maybe even better than they can, and really encouraging them to, take that next step and go over that next boulder and make that next move, summit that next peak when they're going, I don't think I can do this. And then they do it and they realize, oh, wow, I really can do more than I thought I can. That's one of the things that I love the most about my job.
And when we do that, when we challenge ourselves and push our limits and reach that summit, that unique perspective gives us something else we're missing in modern life.
There's something about the mountains and being up here, you get that sense that I am really small and I am really finite and I am not that important in the grand scheme of things. And it's really humbling. And I feel like if I ever start to, feel a little maybe big for my britches, I just come out in the mountains and I get spanked by the mountains and it's like, okay, now my perspective's a little better. I've grown over the years to actually like that feeling and just live in that place of mystery and wonder and just kind of bask in that. It's great.
There's a phrase, deep time. It was coined by the author John McPhee to describe the flash, the mere spark of human existence compared to the enormous longevity of the geologic process that shaped this planet. The eons that push these Rocky Mountains and continue to push them inch by inch into the sky. Our brains can't comprehend it, not really. But we get a sense of it when we look out at that sea of peaks, when we are lifted above our normal view into the abode of the gods.
What psychologists say about awe is that they're experiences that involve what they call cognitive challenge. So your sort of normal frameworks for understanding things get sort of blown apart. And this sort of disorienting feeling, which is what makes you sort of stop and your jaw drops and you just sort of try to take it in. You're used to sort of seeing things at a certain scale. You're used to thinking of yourself at a certain scale. And all of a sudden, all of that gets shifted really fast. It takes your attention completely away from yourself. This sort of awesome sight that you're looking at sort of takes up your entire mind. It's also kind of like stretching the boundaries of your mind. And that's an experience that people don't get very often. People will report after having these experiences that they come out with a better sense of perspective on life. And that's really valuable. Even if you just go up to the mountaintop every once in a while, to kind of get yourself set straight like that is really a good experience for a lot of people.
And that moment of great wonder isn't just a fleeting feeling. It has a profound effect on us.
It's really interesting the effects that these experiences have on people. So they tend to make people happier. People come out in better moods. It makes people nicer too. People are more generous after having experiences like this, more willing to help others. They have the sense that they have more time on their hands. So there are all these really interesting psychological shifts. And actually experiences of awe have a more profound effect on people in this way than experiences of other positive emotions, things like compassion. You would think that would lead people to be more generous, but awe actually has a stronger effect on people's generosity. So it's interesting to see, and it's sort of unclear exactly how this all works. Clearly, there's something very humbling about these experiences. And it's possible that this humility, this sort of thinking of yourself and your day-to-day concerns as not the most important thing in the world, this experience of humility can make you sort of more interested in others, more easily integrated into social groups, more willing to help, less egotistical. And I think people feel like it resets them and sort of takes all the weird distortions that modern life can bring about in us, and it kind of corrects them and sets us right.
That's why Dawn does photography, to inspire people through her images to care more deeply about the natural world. That's why Katie works in environmental philosophy to help shape our understanding of our relationships to wild spaces. That's why Bob has spent 30 years in the mountains to show people like me this view. We started with a John Muir quote, and here's another. Thousands of nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home. That's why this matters. That's why we climb mountains.
Well, I think Muir was especially concerned about what he thought cities did to human nature. He saw people living what he thought were unhappy, unhealthy lives. He saw urban life as sort of distorting what he thought of as human nature. And he thought that the cure for this was to get out into the wilderness and to get back in touch with your animal nature, which he thought of as a sort of purer form of human nature, an undistorted version of ourselves. I mean, I think there's something about what modern life does to people that, it's the amount of time you spend staring at a screen, and getting some time away from that, getting to look at things that aren't exactly 6 inches in front of your face is really nice. And there is something that feels like you're fixing something that got distorted there. So I think Muir's not completely off base when it comes to some of the ways that the natural world can heal us and make us whole again.
If I have a tough day, that's the first thing I do. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna walk away for a minute. I'm gonna go take a walk, and it might just be just around the lake, but it's still views of the mountains. It's still something about just being outside, getting some sunshine, getting some fresh air. And I went through a really tough year in 2012 and 2013, and that was the first place I went. I wanted to be outdoors, and that was how I got through everything, and it hasn't stopped.
Climbing a mountain to me just feels like taking off a heavy coat I just didn't know I was wearing until I got up here. Whatever I'm stressing about, whatever's on my list, whatever's getting me down, just washes away with the wind on top of the summit. It just feels amazing. And there are lots of amazing views in the world, but this one is special. This is a Rocky Mountain view. When I dream of the West, when I dream of being out here in that old frontier, what I dream about are these rugged peaks. I dream of these mountains and these valleys and these alpine lakes, and to stand on top of them, to really earn it and climb it with your own 2 feet is like no other feeling on earth. I thought our hike was done. We'd reached the summit. We'd roared that primal scream into the valleys below. But there was one piece of Rocky Mountain magic left. So we've just come down from the mountain. I'm talking quietly because there is a young moose right there. Oh my God, we're so close. What's the protocol here?
I find moose they're a little more unpredictable than like the deer and the elk. He's a yearling, so he was like last spring's little guy. So he's been, out, and mom's probably been with him for the winter. And mom could be around. She's probably not going to be as protective right now, but moose just in general can sometimes wake up on the wrong side of the bed. So it's good to give moose a wide berth. And this is unusual, as this is a treat to be able to see a moose on the east side of the Continental Divide. This is my first one this year. So this is cool.
It's so magical to see it in real life, just a few feet away from us. I mean, that is like the quintessential Rocky Mountain view, isn't it? Moose, beautiful lake behind, and then just huge rugged mountains. It doesn't get better than that. It
doesn't get much better than that.
Mountains are more than just rock and ice. They exist in our imagination, in our dreams, in our DNA, as much as they do in our national parks and wild spaces. They are solace, they are healing, they are a part of us. And when you come here and climb your mountain, however big or small, they become a part of you too. This is just one of thousands of different adventures you can have here. So get out there, enjoy it, earn it, soak up that Rocky Mountain air, and let that heavy coat, that coat of the city, just float away on the breeze. Or perhaps John Muir did just say it best. The mountains are calling, and I must go. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Exploring Estes Park. You can download a guide to Estes Park's quiet corners and secret hikes from visitestespark.com. And keep listening, we have some incredible stories coming up. So keep getting your boots in the dirt, keep hiking, keep reaching for your summit, whatever that may be. I'm your host, Aaron Miller. I also wrote and produced this episode. Our audio and story editor is Jason Patton, and we had production assistance from Juliette Luini. A very special thank you to Dawn Wilson for sharing her photography advice and wisdom. You can book photography tours with her and buy prints of her work at dawnwilsonphotography.com. You can also follow her work on Instagram at dawnwilsonphoto. Thank you also to Professor Katie McShane from CSU for sharing her research, insight, and expertise. We found that incredibly interesting. And finally, a very special thank you to Bob Chase and the Colorado Mountain School for taking us out on this adventure. You can find out more about what they do at coloradomountainschool.com and check out their Instagram page for some awesome shots of Rocky Mountain adventures at Colorado Mountain School. Finally, a huge shout out to Josh Harms and the rest of the team at Visit Estes Park for making this episode possible and bringing this story to you. I'll see you next time on Exploring Estes Park. Thanks for listening to this Armchair Explorer on location episode. I had a ton of fun making it. I hope you had a ton of fun coming along with me. Next week, we'll be back with our usual format, and then there'll be lots more on location stuff to come.